Good afternoon. I am Michael Collins. It's July 8th, 2015, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are in the Cumberland County Historical Society audiovisual studio. I've asked Mr. Newton Robbins to come back for a second round with us. He was so enjoyable the last time he was here, and we've got a lot more ground to cover today. So this is essentially part two of the interview. I will ask you to identify yourself, sir, your date of birth, current age, and your current address.
My name is Newton C. Robbins. My current age is 87. My date of birth is September the 24th, 1927. Did I miss something?
And you currently live at what address?
7 Robert Lane, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, 17013.
All right, sir, thank you. The last time you were in, excuse me, we covered a lot of your early years. I believe you grew up in Milton,
Correct.
Pennsylvania. We also covered teen years, high school, your lengthy, extensive involvement as a member of the Civil Air Patrol, I believe from 1942 to 1986.
Correct.
We covered college. You joined in the Pennsylvania State Police. And what we'd like to look at today, literally, is we missed getting a lot of your personal documents and photographs on video.
Okay.
So I would start off this interview by asking you, what would you like to talk about?
Well, there's so many things to talk about. I was a certified open water scuba diver.
Mm-hmm.
Did I mention that before?
You did, and you didn't say you were certified open water. I believe, sir, you said you were one of the first with the state police in
Yes.
body and material recovery.
Correct.
And helped get them started with that.
Right.
Also something about aviation, state police, Pennsylvania State Police aviation.
Yes.
You were one of the pioneers in getting them going with that
Yes.
too. But can you show us what you brought and possibly give us a little bit of history on the item?
Okay. You're not still running that, are you?
Yeah, we get it all.
There's a picture of one of my old airplanes,
Now, is that a Cessna?
Cessna 140.
Okay. And what year would that be?
What year was that in?
Yeah.
That would have been back in, my brother was still living then, probably in the early 70s.
I believe Cessna's been around since what, the Second World War?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And did you get this one? But
If
I'm
we
not
did,
talking
we'll do
about-
it again.
I'm talking about scuba. Here we go, scuba.
And this is all your World War II Navy
Yes.
snapshots when you were decommissioning ships, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
16th Fleet.
Okay.
Pick the best looking guy there.
You got on your frogman outfits. I can't really.
Look at the back of the picture.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so you're on the right.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all early stuff. I don't think they even wear that type of gear
Oh,
anymore. do
you're
they?
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
What is that, 50s, 60s?
Oh, let's see. We moved down there in 54. It would probably be around 56, 57, somewhere around there.
And what is the
Significance of
the PA? Is that PA?
Professional Divers Association.
Okay, then.
And there's another one. Wait a minute. Here we go.
That's a whole bunch of you. So that was the initial crew for the
Look on the back.
Swanee Lake False Teeth Hunt, 1960, and you found them.
We found him. That's correct.
Now, was this an exercise?
The story in back of that was the fellow who lost his false teeth
Right.
was practicing for the an event with the 3 rings on it or the 4 rings. Help me out.
Olympics.
Olympics. He was practicing out for the Olympics.
Okay.
And it was on kayak, and he made a speed run in Shawnee Lake.
Okay.
And when he finished, he turned like this, and his false teeth fell out. So he was really shook up, and he contacted us and asked us if we would search for his false teeth.
Okay.
Well, I had dove in Shawnee Lake before, and it's muddy bottom, and you can barely see your hand in front of your face. So we used a concentric circle method of searching. In other words, we asked him, now, where do you think it dropped in the lake? So he showed us, and we dropped a stone with a rope wrapped around it, a long rope.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took the rope, and with all these fellows on that rope, we started swinging 360 degrees around the center point. Our first turn, we found it.
Really?
The visibility was hand in the face, the mud, and you had to be careful you stirred it up, and then you couldn't see.
Right.
But actually, we were probing in the bottom, and we found the false teeth.
So you're probing with your hand?
Yes.
I guess, did you use that same method for your body recovery also?
Basically, it was a search method.
Yeah.
Search method. But it was really something.
Yeah, to find a pair of false teeth.
And if you look closer on that, one of these guys is holding the false teeth. There it is, right? I think, no. Look at the first row.
I think it just fell in the center here.
He's just a young boy.
Yeah, he's Pee-wee. Nope, that's his hands. Ropes. Yeah, I believe, no. Oh, it's this fella here because it goes in front of the young boy. You can see his arm.
Okay.
Okay. You can see his arm go over, and there's the false teeth. Mr.
Well, I'm
Robbins
glad I
is
put the
talking
date
about.
on that one.
Yeah.
That's only 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a little while back,
55
hasn't it?
years ago. So, go ahead.
All right, so what else you got in your bag of tricks?
Well, here's my pride and joy.
Oh, that's a pretty picture.
That's 1980. That was a Cessna 172M.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. I sold it after 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha. And here is a green trooper one. Look what's on the back of that one once.
That's Private Robbins, age 22, PA State Police, C2, Hollidaysburg, 1950, with your 47 Ford.
Correct.
Well, they still wear the campaign hat, but I think the Sam Brown belts and
And the breeches and the puttees.
breeches and
stuff
puttees is all.
went by the wayside.
Yeah.
All went by the wayside.
But the tradition of the campaign hat, or what they call it,
Remains.
yeah, I think that's true with most state police, across the country. That's a great photograph.
Yeah. I don't know if you got this one or not.
Newt Roberts Civil Air Patrol Congressional Gold Medal Ceremonies. Wow. He had told us about it, but we didn't get this.
Okay.
And that was exchange, how do you say that, exchange
Exchange Club of Carlisle.
Okay, Newt Roberts received his Congressional Gold Medal March 28, 2015. Then it's got a list of the people that were with you and talk talking about your World War II Civil Air Patrol cadet service, and that you were 15 years old when you joined Civil Air Patrol in 1942. That's quite an honor. Do you have that out on display in your house, or you got it
I
tucked
have
away?
it in my office.
In your office,
Yes.
okay. I would say.
I don't know, that you don't have to do anything with that. I received my 25-year pin with the state police.
And that's you on the right.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were a captain at that point, right?
No, I was a lieutenant.
Lieutenant at that point. How many years did it take you to make captain?
5
5?
years. Okay, keep up.
All right, I'll keep rolling here.
Here was
Oh, that looks like
there was
a
another
troop
picture
shot.
of the same thing, only it was the people, or the troopers involved.
Now, that was the troops from your barracks, right?
Yes, Butler, Troop D. Butler.
Now, had you moved to Carlisle at this point?
No.
That was after you made captain, wasn't it?
I made captain in 1976,
Right,
and I was promoted. I was a lieutenant
right.
in Butler, and I was promoted to captain and transferred to Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Right.
I was in charge of the Turnpike
Right.
detail. I had about 180 troopers, something like that. Don't quote me on the number,
Right.
I'm guessing at it. But where was I?
Well, you got transferred.
Oh, I got transferred down on the Turnpike.
Right.
Well, I commuted back and forth to Bedford because we had a home in Butler.
Butler. Okay.
We lived in Bedford before that for 10
Right.
years. And I commuted back and forth for a year. They would pay your moving expenses. And the last day of the year, we moved.
Okay.
So they paid my moving expenses to Carlisle.
All right.
And I've been there ever since, 39 years.
So, where was the barracks? Do you call them state police or barracks?
Barracks.
The different stations?
Yeah.
And so you
They were previously called substations.
substations.
Now they're stations.
How many of those, when you said that you were responsible for commanding 180, give or take, troopers, how many of those stations or barracks?
8.
8.
East and west and north and south.
So you're averaging between 15 and 20 troopers per then?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how much was the total distance you're covering? The whole distance of the PA Turnpike?
I used to know the exact mileage, but it's 300 and some across the country, east to west, and about 150 north and south.
So you're on the road quite a bit to go to your substations or barracks.
Yes.
And your personal staff and your barracks was located where?
My barracks was located at the Turnpike headquarters at High Spire.
Okay, I know where that is.
And in my office, or my compound office,
Right.
I had a sergeant who routed the calls and so forth. So if you called for me,
Right.
it had to go through them before it got to me.
All right then. Now, when you first started with the Pennsylvania State Police in 1947, I believe it was
49.
49. Excuse me, I'm thinking of the date of your squad car. Were there any female officers on the
No.
road? Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the advent of female PA State Police and your thoughts and interaction?
Well, I can
with
tell you
them?
a story about that.
That's what I want to hear.
We had our first female trooper came to the troop from the academy, and I can't think of her name anymore. It was Lynette something or another. But once a month we would have a troop drill, and all the stations would send personnel to the Turnpike headquarters, where we would have an inspection.
Okay.
And I wished I had it, but that's in my office. But I was, and the major, the area commander, Sid Deo, we were doing this inspection, and I was leading the on tour. At any rate, I came to Lynette, and the routine is you start from the top and you go down and you check, and so forth. I stopped at her belly. I said, "Trooper, you're gaining weight." "Yes, sir." Of course, now she was also displaying her firearm, her revolver.
Okay.
So I checked it over and gave it back to her. After the troop drill, the sergeant in charge of the Everett station, where she was also charged, gave me a call. And he said, "Newt," I knew him personally, and he said, "You were talking about Lynette gaining weight." "Yeah. She's 3 months pregnant." 3 months. Oh, that's not the end of the story.
No, okay.
So I, not more than the weekend after that, I'm westbound on the turnpike, and my car number is 300. When a 300 goes 10-8, which is in service,
Right.
everybody knows it because of the frequency. It's a clothesline frequency, and I think to this day, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm westbound on the turnpike, 300, and a guy went by me, whizzing by me, and I never bothered anybody unless they were really moving. And this guy was moving, I think he was moving about 85 miles an hour. And I got in back of him and clocked him. And then I contacted the area, the Everett East Patrol, and I asked for a 1020 location of the car. And guess who it was? It was this female trooper, Lynette. I hope I'm right on that name. It's been a few years. But at any rate, she was up ahead. Now we're moving. We're moving at the time. And I thought, boy, oh boy, she's got to put the pedal to the metal to catch us, because we passed her.
Right.
We passed her, and she was on a stationary patrol. At any rate, she's pedal to the metal, and finally she catches up, pulls up with the suspect's car, and gives him the siren, and he pulls over. And before she went up and got the ID, operator's license, etc. Then she come back and she give me a highball, and I said, "How you doing?" I said, knowing her condition.
Right.
She says, okay.
Huh.
And at any rate, I thought, well, that's progress. But I'm not done. That story, and of course, the guy paid his fine and so forth and so on. Everybody was waiting to see whether or not what she's going to be like in battle.
Right.
There was a stolen car on the turnpike. It was identified, be on the lookout, Bolo, be on lookout.
Okay.
And they saw this car eastbound on the turnpike, and it was between Bedford and Everett. Bedford and, it wasn't Everett. Oh, geez, there goes the name. At any rate, they tried to stop with the car, and the car wouldn't stop. So they pulled the box, and she was in front, and she was slowing up, and this guy was ramming her in the rear end, from the back. And he pulls off at Breezewood. He pulls off at Breezewood, and there's a patrol car waiting, and she is right behind him. He jumps out of the car and starts fighting with the troopers. And Lynette jumps out of her car, and she gets right into the battle. And she's pounding hell out of, pardon me.
That's all right.
And
Pregnant and all.
pregnant and all. And I venture to say that by the time she got back to the barracks, the whole turnpike detail knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the other story. That was the other
So
story.
she definitely proved her mettle.
Oh, yeah.
Did she stay with the state police?
No,
No.
no. She may have remained after that until she had the child, but then she left.
Became a full-time mother, I
Yeah.
guess. That's a great story. I know you were with the state police from 49 to 81,
Yes.
1981, and you moved to Carlisle in Carlisle, Cumberland County in 79, you'd said.
No. Eight,
No, it had to be before that because you founded or you're a charter member and president of the Carlisle Flying Club
yes,
in 1977.
yes.
So you
So it had to be in '76. We
76.
moved there.
Now,
Because we've been there for 39 years.
okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the Carlisle Flying Club? Now, we know you had a long and quite successful history, honored history with the Civil Air Patrol. When the Carlisle Flying Club, were you a founding member? And
Yes.
was this something that you started and you wanted to
No,
see?
it was started by the squadron commander,
Okay.
and his name was Kingsborough, Charles Kingsborough. He was a major in rank at the time with the
Okay.
Civil Air Patrol. And we had a maximum limit of 15 members. And we had one plane to start with, and we got a second plane.
So the Flying Club was essentially then a Civil Air Patrol based.
You had to, that was another requirement. You had to be a Civil Air Patrol member to join the club.
All right.
So I was already a CAP member.
All right. Well, you'd been one for quite a while at that
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
Now, the Flying Club, what type of community involvement did you get in? With law enforcement, with civic activities, or
Well-
flying banners behind the planes for politicians, or what?
It gets pretty technical, not technical, voluminous. But at any rate, briefly, I joined the Exchange Club of Pennsylvania, of Butler,
But
of Bedford, of Carlisle.
I get them all confused
Oh,
too.
well, I was so many places. You know.
Sure.
And at any rate, after joining the club, we participated in the Civil Air Patrol activities and orientation rides for cadets and so forth and so on, all for the betterment of the community. But as a member of the Carlisle, a new member of the Carlisle Exchange Club,
Right.
they made me actually law enforcement. I was in charge of law enforcement. And I had to come up, didn't have to, but I came up with a crime prevention program called Crime Stoppers.
Mm-hmm.
And I formed a Crime Stopper, Carlisle area Crime Stoppers, and we kicked the off in 1985, in the summer of 1985. Well, it was the first successful call. We asked for anonymous calls, and then we give them a number. Actually, we had a armed robbery in which they blew the head off a guy. Oh boy, service station on the West Shore.
Okay.
It'll come to me
So it was armed robbery resulting in a homicide.
on a homicide. Right. So we get this call, this anonymous phone call, and the fella, he said, my nephew borrowed the car. When he came back the next day, I was out checking the car, and I found this bloody $1 bill in the back seat. And we put two and two together and solved the case. That was the first major case that we solved, and solved many more after that. Well, the program was so good, we had, first of all, I got to put a plug in for the citizens of Carlisle.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked for volunteers to come on board as a director for the Carlisle Crime Stoppers program. We didn't have any trouble whatsoever getting the cream of the crop of the town who joined. And they were very much interested in it, and it was a successful program, so successful that the state came down and they wanted to start a statewide Crime Stopper program, which is in effect today.
Right.
And they've solved many crimes.
So from that, you probably got a lot of satellites going to the different communities and
That's
so
right.
forth too, didn't
That's
you?
right.
It's a wonderful thing to do for your community. Of course, you had the background and credentials,
Oh, yeah.
you know, to do something as such. But I think everybody is familiar with Crime Stoppers, and you realize that you can remain anonymous.
Oh, and I missed my point too.
Okay.
I was appointed initially I was the president of the local program, but
Okay.
they made me the secretary for the state program I had that title for 11 years
Ooh.
until I had open heart surgery.
Okay. Then you had to let some of that stuff go, huh?
That's right.
I wanted to ask you also, backtracking just a little bit, I know you've got volumes, as you stated earlier, of stories coming from your state police days. And I remember you telling us the last time you were here about finding the two robbery suspects from the air,
Right.
and landing your plane, I guess, in a pasture or a field, and arresting them. Could you possibly relate any instance that you might have found as your most harrowing, the most dangerous, or the most time, an instance that you
Yes,
felt yourself?
it comes right to me. You can look at this while I'm talking.
Okay, then.
Actually, I think the worst case I ever had when I was shot at, and they just missed me by the
Hair in your nose?
hair of my nose. Yeah, but the shot hit me. It was an 8mm Mauser shooting. Hit me right. It didn't hit me. It hit stones, and the stones hit my foot.
Okay.
If he hit another inch, he'd have got me in the foot.
That sounds like World War II rifle shooting at you, or was it a handgun?
It was an 8mm Mauser rifle.
Yeah.
And it all came about as the result of this son, the lady's son, who was a young man. He was about 5'6" and weighed about 350 pounds.
Okay.
He was beating his mother up. His mother went to the JP's office and got a warrant. I was on call, and they called me out, and another trooper and I went out to the farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And as we approached, this is in late evening,
Okay.
and as we approached the house and got out, there was a barn light, we call it, that was lit and was illuminating the area around the barn and the house. And as we got out of the car, shots rang out. And when shots rang out, that was when we started into action, returning the fire.
Right.
Of course, we didn't know it was dark,
Right.
but the patrol car, it was a plain round black wrapper, and the inside of it was illuminated by this farm light.
Okay.
You know how they used to
Sure.
illuminate. Well, I called to my buddy, Petchak. I said, you okay? He says, yeah. He said, you okay? I said, yeah. I said, I'm trying to call for signal 13, which is trooper needs help.
Right.
And I called until the battery went dead. But before I did that, the mic was illuminated by the light. And I would think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? We got to get help. And at any rate, I reached for it, and he didn't shoot. In the meantime, I had started a conversation with him because I said, "Are you hit?" Because I fired into the house, close to where the firing was coming from. And he said, "No." He says, "Are you?" And I said, "No." So I talked to him for an hour, and he had a dog, and the dog was barking, and suddenly the dog started moving toward the barn. I could hear it because it was barking, and I figured he was trying to circle around us. We was wrong. Luckily we were, but at any rate, it got daylight, and we're still talking. I talked him out of the house. He had a rifle in his hand, and I tried to talk him to unload the rifle, and he unloaded the rifle. And then, in the meantime, the barracks sent troopers out, and we took him into custody.
Okay, so he fired the round that almost got you.
Yeah.
Early on in
Initially.
Initially.
Yeah.
And I take it his mother was okay. Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things I asked prior when I was talking to the JP, ask her if he has any guns in the house.
Oh, sure.
And she said, no guns.
Found out
We
different.
found out otherwise.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise.
Well, that had to be.
Oh, I'm not done with that story.
No, you've got more.
So, no. Actually, we put him in jail, Bedford County Jail, and then the procedure was he'd been in the state hospital here in Harrisburg before, and every now and then when the moon was full, he would run rabbits, and we called it run rabbits and bark at the moon. That's an old hunter saying. But and he'd go off in the tangent, and the last tangent was beating up his mother. And guess who got to ride in the back seat of the patrol car with this 350-pound man?
I couldn't guess.
I don't think you could either.
Who's that?
Me.
I knew that was coming.
We were taking the turnpike. We were taken to the turnpike to Harrisburg. And I was in the back seat. I was a junior man, that's why. A junior man always got all the dirt.
Yeah.
So to speak. At any rate, I'm talking to him like a Dutch uncle, unquote.
Right.
And he's doing fine. We get down, and I'm sweating it out. Every time we went through a tunnel, I knew it's all he would have to do was get those arms around me, and I would be hurting more ways than one. And I almost held my breath every tunnel we went through, with the exception of the longest tunnel on the turnpike.
Right.
There I dropped the name of that one. But at any rate, we get down to the Puzzle Palace. We call it the Puzzle Palace.
Okay.
We also called department headquarters the Puzzle Palace, too.
Okay.
But we get down to the Puzzle Palace and parked, and here come two of the orderlies out to pick him out, and he knew him, and he started acting up, and we started leaving.
So you figured it was time for you guys to go.
Yeah.
You turned him over. That's it. Well, that I guess he was a pretty strong and stocky farm boy then, wasn't he?
Oh, and he had a beard. He looked like a bear.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Built like a stump and looked like a bear.
Black beard.
Yeah.
But that was just one of them. I'm getting tasty here.
Yeah. Would you like drink water?
Oh.
Yeah, we've got bottled water for you here. Take a swallow and
Continue.
All right. Now you were married for how many years? Did you say?
Oh, that's another story.
Okay. Well, that's what we're looking for today. Oh, yeah, that one's tight. There you go.
Yesterday, my wife and I have been married 59 years. 59 years. We've had 2 children and we have 3 grandchildren.
Okay.
And very successful, so forth.
Sure.
But there again, I lost the car at the last turn.
Okay.
I forgot our anniversary.
You did?
Oh, my wife, we get up in the morning and she says, "Congratulations, here's a card." I said, "What for?"
Did you hear about that all day?
Well, I heard about it until I went to the barber shop. And in the barber shop, I related, that was her anniversary and what had happened. She said, "I'd get her a bouquet of flowers." I said, "The thing was pretty icy at home."
Sure.
So less than a mile away, I got it at George's. I stopped and I got her a dozen roses.
There you go.
Oh.
Does that make things better?
Yeah. The ice started to melt.
Now, if she was here and I could ask her what it's been like to be married to you for 59 years, how do you think she'd answer that?
She'd probably tell you the truth. And there was times she wished that she hadn't, and there was times that she was prayed that she did.
Right.
But we never fought. We never fought until lately.
Okay.
And that happens in the latter part of life, especially cabin fever. If you're an old hunter, you know what cabin fever
I
is.
certainly do. Yes, I do.
We downsized in cars. We had 2 cars, and now we only have 1 car.
Okay.
And we have to.
So the dynamics of the relationship have changed with the retirement and age
Yeah.
and health and so forth.
I used to have to sleep with the telephone when I was stationed in Bedford.
Okay.
I was a criminal investigator, and anything that happened on the turnpike, they turned it over to the barracks, the county detail.
Okay. Well, that was one of the things I was going to lead to with asking her describing your relationship. How was she as a
Mother?
state police wife? I mean, that's like a lot of worry and heartache and headache and.
Well, I had to determine if any calls of complaints or anything like that, the telephone would ring when I had called.
Okay.
And guess where the telephone was? On her side of the bed.
Okay.
And getting back to the Crime Stoppers,
Right.
on that first case, this guy calls and he says, "I want to tell you who robbed that or who shot that guy in the service station." She said, "Don't talk to him, don't say anything." And she's
Right.
trying to calm the guy down, and she finally got his telephone number, and I called back, but she said, "Boy, some nights the phone never stopped ringing."
So she was active with you with Crime Stoppers and answering the phone
Oh,
and getting
yes.
information?
Yes.
Okay. What about your children during that period of time? Did you have anybody at home?
Yes, we had our daughter and our son.
Mm-hmm.
Our daughter now is about 56,
Okay.
and our son is 54. There's
Okay.
2 years difference.
And you had mentioned grandkids. How many grandkids do you have?
3,
Great grandchildren?
nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Okay.
Recent marriages of the daughters.
Okay. So they're all fairly young yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're 27.
Well, that's true.
And the good part about this is my daughter-in-law is an ordained minister.
You'd mentioned that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Her daughter is now an ordained minister, and she is out by Chicago. She has a church out in Chicago.
I'm sure you're very proud of all your children,
Oh,
your
yeah.
grandkids.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we had covered you and I had talked about with your life since retirement. What type of activities do you find yourself involved with? I know you said something about health, and you don't go to the Y as much as you used to. You were a lifelong YMCA member.
I became a member of the YMCA when my mother took us to the local Y in Milton. And I was 8 and my brother was 10.
Okay.
And I ended up working in the Y and swimming instructor and so forth and so on, and diving instructor. But at any rate, it's been a wonderful life.
Well, it seems like you have taken advantage of what opportunities were out there, in as much as a child with the service organizations like the Y and Civil Air Patrol. You know, you weren't somebody just to sit on your thumbs. You went out and got active. When the religion.
In each location that we lived, we were Lutherans.
Okay.
And we joined the Lutheran Church. I was in church council in each one of those locations. And I was church council here in Carlisle. We sang in a choir for 20 years. And it finally got to the point where my voice wasn't like it used to be.
Right.
But we still attend church regularly.
Do you go to the church on East High?
No, we go to the church out at Carlisle Springs.
Okay, because I believe we have two here in Carlisle.
That's
we
correct.
have St. Paul's, and then we have.
We visited both of them
Right.
when we initially came here.
Well, I know St. Paul's is quite civic oriented with the homeless and the poor people in the community. I know they do an awful lot.
Our daughter-in-law was sponsored by St. Paul's Lutheran Church and ministry.
All right.
And then she went to Powassan, not Powassan, that's up in Canada. That's one of my fishing locations.
Okay. Do you still find yourself fishing? Still like to go
I
through?
finally hung up my rod.
Okay. Did you fly fish ever?
Plug.
Many,
Many fish stories.
I bet.
Canada.
Right. Yeah. Many fish stories, true or not, right?
Oh, the size of the fish always increased somehow or another.
My dad said they increased with each beer he drank.
Yeah. And hunting, we used to hunt. I taught my son everything I knew.
Right.
And he was the luckiest deer hunter I ever seen. He got some beautiful racks.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the biggest rack you ever got?
Oh, 6 point.
6 point. Did you take the head or just the antlers and mount them up?
You know, in all the years that I hunted, I never mounted anything, nothing.
Okay.
But our son, he's got deer racks sitting all over the place and heads and so forth. He's lucky.
Or is he still an active hunter, I guess? And
Oh, yeah.
Young man, yeah.
Turkey hunting, deer hunting, fishing.
Did you like to bird hunt also? Turkey
Oh,
hunt?
yeah. Yes, I shot a couple of turkeys.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
I
I want to thank you again. My name's Michael Collins. I've been talking with retired state policeman, Mr. Newton Robbins of Carlisle, and I want to thank you again for your time, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right.